Hey, my name's Elise Pickett with the Urban Harvest, and I teach people how to grow their own food. An important part of that doesn't have anything to do with food, though. It has to do with flowers. They can attract beneficial insects and pollinators to the garden like we never could. We're going to take a look at some of the flowers you might want to consider for growing in your garden. If you don't have a lot of in-ground space, don't feel limited. Container flowers are totally an option. Marigolds are a great one. They stay nice and compact, fit easily into the containers, offer beauty for the pollinators. There's two different kinds of marigolds, African and French. African tend to favor the cooler weather just a bit better, and French tend to favor a little bit of warmer weather. Verbena is another great option for containers. They tend to be able to handle or withstand drought, which can sometimes be an issue with containers when we occasionally forget to water them. So if you tend to be a little bit on the forgetful side, verbena may be the perfect flower for your container. Pollinator plants are a fantastic addition to your garden, and they will pull in pollinators to help ensure that the rest of your garden has adequate pollination. They are going to vary depending on your climate and where you are in the US, but sage tends to be in almost every climate across the country. You just may have a species or two that's different depending where you're at. They can draw in things like hummingbirds and butterflies and bees. We can't talk about pollinator gardens without mentioning the milkweed. It is the iconic host plant for the monarch butterfly. There is something interesting to note about milkweed. There's more than one kind, and there are both native and non-native varieties. The non-native varieties can actually cause issues for the caterpillars, so make sure to look for a variety of native milkweed to your area. Wildflowers are an amazing addition to your flower garden because they are incredibly well adapted to whatever the growing conditions are in your space, whether it be clay or sandy soil, hot or cold. There is some sort of wildflower that is going to be perfectly suited to those conditions. This here is blanket flower, which is a perennial wildflower, meaning it comes back year after year. It forms beautiful mounding clumps, and the pollinators absolutely adore them. Coreopsis is a wonderful annual wildflower, and that means that the mother plant or the original plant will die every single year, but as long as the growing conditions were well suited, it will reseed itself and pop up again the following year. Cut flowers are something that can bring the beauty and warmth and joy of your garden indoors. They tend to last a little bit longer than other flowers you may cut out of the garden and tend to have sturdier stems, so they make a really good addition to the vase. Sunflowers are one of the most well-known and beloved of cut flowers. There are ones that are dwarf at just 2 to 3 feet tall, and ones that are absolute giants, reaching 6 to 8 feet tall. They also have ones that are a single flower per plant, and ones that are branching and will produce multiple flowers per plant. We always think of flowers as being just pretty, but a lot of them are also edible. So these flowers you can eat. Calendula being an amazing example of edible flowers. It's medicinal, but also just pretty and edible that you can pull the petals for and toss into a salad. Now, the whole flower can be a little bitter, but if you pull the petals off and toss those in, it's actually quite pleasing and adds a huge pop of color to your salads. I am now going to suggest that perhaps you don't plant it, but you forage for it. This edible flower is found in most people's lawns and roadways. It's called Spanish needle, and it is edible. It's also highly medicinal and can help with things like respiratory issues. A lot of what we've been talking about are smaller, more herbaceous flowers. So let's talk about something a little bit more established, flowering shrubs. Things like sweet shrub are an amazing addition to the garden because they have that amazing sweet smell. I like to plant them next to patios or anywhere else you might be spending a little time in the garden for their amazing scent that they offer you. Dewdrop is such a pretty shrub. It is not only pleasing to our eyes, but it is an incredible pollinator attractor. Butterflies absolutely love it. They have these pretty purple flowers, and then afterwards they get these like little yellow berries that hang all off of them. They're not edible, but they sure are pretty. This was like a micro snapshot of some of the flowering plants out there. And when all is said and done, all flowers are going to be an incredibly beautiful and helpful addition to your garden.